Welcome back. If you just joined us watching the news at 10, broadcasting on Channel Television live from Lagos. The Executive Secretary of the National Planning Commission, Mr. Bassi Akpanyong, says the Nigerian Economic Summit has expanded its public sector membership to 12. Mr. Bassi told the news conference in Abuja that more government agencies, departments and ministries such as the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Nigeria Governors Forum Secretariat, and the Office of the Inspector General of Police have been included in the summit. According to him, the inclusion of the government agencies was made to deepen the success of the 2015 Nigerian Economic Summit.
Ahead of the 2015 Nigerian Economic Summit, the Executive Secretary of the National Planning Commission, Mr. Bassi Akpanyong, said the Joint Planning Committee has broadened its public sector membership to 12 in order to deepen its success.
The public sector membership of the JPC has been broadened to include the following ministries, departments, and agencies of government. 1, the National Planning Commission as co-chair, the Office of the Chief Economic Advisor to the President member, the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the Vice President, the Office of the Secretary to Government of the Federation, the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, the Federal Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation, Office of the Inspector General of Police, the Nigerian Enforcement Promotion Council, the Budget Office of the Federation, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and the Nigeria Governors Forum Secretariat.
Apart from expanding its membership, the Executive Secretary also believes that this year's summit will help government to effectively implement its economic policy thrust.
The policy thrust of the government focused on ensuring inclusive growth, job creation, addressing security issues, curbing corruption, and all leakages in the public service. It is expected that the summit conclusions will be helpful towards articulating strategies for ensuring effective implementation of the change agenda.
The Nigerian Economic Summit is an annual event that has pulled together experts since its inauguration in 1993.
Taking out to Abuja, where Gloria Omezoke is with the CEO of Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Mr. Laoye Jayola. Hello, Gloria.
Well, thank you, Amarachi. I'm Gloria Omezoke from Abuja. To throw more light on the activities of the group, I'm now being joined on the News at 10 by the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Mr. Laoye Jayola. Thanks for joining us on News at 10.
Thank you. Good evening.
Well, before I proceed to the main issue, you heard about the caliber of man appointed as the GMD of the NNPC. Let me ask you now, what do you make of Mr. Pt.2 as the new GMD, first-class graduate?
Well, apart from being a first-class graduate, he's been with ExxonMobil, and therefore, given his pedigree, our expectation is that he will come on board and he will, given the approval of the president, to carry on the necessary unbundling of the NNPC, which the entire market expects.
You know, now let's go to other issues. The president is yet to make up his mind on the subsidy removal. What would you recommend right now at this moment?
The fact is that we don't have much choices. I mean, if you follow up today, the price of oil is less than $50 per barrel, and signs are not clear that it won't go further down, and the volumes are not there. And so whether we like it or not, it's not about whether it should be done. For me, it's when. And for most of us in the private sector, the earlier it's done, the better. And nobody is averse to reaching out and helping the poor. But when you subsidize consumption, you're not helping anything. Our focus is that subsidy should go to area production, and people should be expected to produce locally. But subsidizing consumption is not the right way to doing it. And in recent time, you found out that even richer nations have done that. If the UAR can remove subsidy, they have more reserve of oil, they have more external reserve, and they've done that. So it's a step in the right direction.
in spite of the consequences it's going to have on Nigerians?
Look, the earlier we all realize that there are the conditions now require for tough choices to be made amongst all Nigerians. In the short run, things are tough. But if we take the right decision, the medium to long term is good for the nation. But in the short run, we have to all face it up.
All right, now to the main issue of the day. The group made several recommendations in its last economic summit group to the government. What were they?
Well, you know, one thing about it, basically we all believe that given the huge advantage we have, we need to look at our educational sector and do a total overhaul of the sector from the primary to the tertiary level, and the need for us to focus more on vocational education and ensure that we prepare our people for jobs that are available here. So a lot of recommendations were made, going to curriculum, going to teacher education, because I'm not sure we're particularly prepared for a good quality education by the way we teach our teachers. And so these are all the things we recommended that government should take a look at and overhaul the entire system. If you realize how much this nation spends on education, sending people abroad, and going back to our history, people were sending people down here to Nigeria for education. And so we believe that for us to take advantage of the vast people we have, we need to relook at our education so that that place where we have advantage, we can take good use of it.
Were they implemented?
Unfortunately, they were adopted but never implemented because they got carried away by the politics of the day.
So are you looking forward to taking these recommendations now to President Muhammad?
Obviously, they'll be part of the things that will go to the president. They're part of the things we'll try to submit to the various committees that have spoken to us to take, that education is something we need to take very, very seriously.
Interesting. You know, just in this line, we have a government that is planning to slash recurrent expenditure. Won't this further deplete the funds for the education sector?
Well, for me, you see, and I'll explain it this way. If all you do is to spend the money you earn on eating and eating and eating, when are you going to plan for your future? The fact of it is that unless we begin to spend money on capital projects, having the right school, building the right roads, and doing all the things that will enhance future revenue generation, we're wasting time. If all we do is pay salaries, then how are you going to plan for the children that are young, that are about to go to school, that haven't gotten a job? How are we going to expand and bring people out of poverty level? How are we going to get more people to work? So it's a step in the right direction that you don't spend all your money on eating and overheads. It's a bad thing that we're spending 70 to 80% of our money on recurrent expenditure. I mean, a definite mark should be set up so that at no point do we spend less than 40%. But I'm glad again that the National Planning Commission again has to look at it, because the reality of it is that you don't just plan for 1 year. You do medium to long-term plan, and all this roll in. And so you know that, look, even if I start a project this year and I can't finish it this year, you take that on next year and you finish it. So you can look at the impact analysis of each of these products on the people. So it's a good thing that we're looking at it, and it's a step in the right direction. And I think the earlier all the states, not only federal, begin to look at and reduce recurrent expenditure, the better for the nation.
You know, many would want to find out what are these recommendations going to achieve, basically, for Nigeria in the long run.
You mean NESG recommendation?
Exactly.
Hey, there's a lot of it. You see, I tell you one thing. It's one thing to adopt our recommendation. It's another thing to implement them. But having said that, a lot of recommendations, I mean, the privatization we're talking about today, the liberalization of the economy we're talking about today, were all the things that NESG had canvassed for. So if you hadn't talked about them, maybe you would have been in the old days when there is no privatization. I recall when we started discussion on the need to look at the pension reforms. It was as if we were going to look at it, because we were doing a defined benefit scheme, and pensioners were dying on the street. People were not being paid their pension. And it was clear that there was no way that was sustainable. So we needed to do a defined, a guaranteed scheme. And so we asked for the reforms, and that was done. Ditto for things like the telecom reforms and all the things we've done alongside. So the reforms, for us, recommendations are made, implementation, we'll continue to talk about it until they get it right. Along the line, we miss implementation. But our job at the NESG is to collaborate with government and say, how can we fine-tune it? How can we make it better? And that's why we continually do the dialogue and the discussions we do with them.
The group also opened its doors to the NNPC, Nigeria Governors Forum, and other kind of groups like that. What sort of contribution do you expect from them?
Well, basically, you know, our main partner at the national, at the federal level, I mean, at the government level, is NNPC, and they have compensation. I mean, what they've done is to enlarge the people to ensure that, look, we involve everybody in all the sector, everybody that are part of the decision making from the government side to be part of us. In our own part, for instance, we have all and sundry. We deal with civil society, with the business and business to business people to make dialogue more inclusive. You see, so long as the dialogue is holistic and inclusive, then you have everybody's point of view. And we all can sit down and say, look, what is in the best interest of the nation? And once we can define what is in the best interest of the nation, we will go into it. So, I mean, if NNPC is there, we're talking about they need to make our all much more inclusive and make it much more integrate to the national economy. They will see the need to do that. Ditto for the central bank, ditto for all those people that we have to come about. So it's a step in the right direction, and we work on it.
Very well. Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Mr. Alaye Jayola, thank you for coming on the News at 10.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's over to you, Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, Gloria, all the way in Abuja. But when the News at 10 returns, Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, opens 1.5 billion metric tons of cement plant in Zambia. We have details in business news. Please join us again.